What's up, everyone? Jacob Roach back here from the Killing Joke Studios and Mixing with Metal. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel, and thank you so much for tuning back in. I'm here today to give you guys 5 tips to step up your productions, and all of these tips cost you $0, and that should be really exciting news because gear is super expensive, and I guarantee these tips are going to take you way further than any equipment that you could possibly buy. So, tip number 1, get creative, okay? So, what I mean by get creative, you've probably heard a million times before, is that creativity is king. But I mean it in a way that you need to define where you're going and then be willing to get creative to achieve your goals. For instance, you want an isolated snare mic. You don't need to go and buy the super hyper ultra cardioid thing that gets rid of everything and gives you a back massage. What you need to do is figure out a way to isolate the snare mic you already have. Get creative with that. If you need foam and you just need to tape a ton of foam, a shitload of foam around it, then do that. Be willing to get creative with your productions to achieve the sound you need. If you need to sit out there and do 50 vocal takes by yourself because you want a gang vocal and the band's already gone, then go do those 50 vocal takes, because that doesn't cost you any money. That just costs you time and hard work, and that's fine. That's what it takes to be successful. So be willing to get creative, be willing to work hard, and to get in there and really make your production everything you want it to be. If you want something to sound huge, find a way to make it sound huge without going in and just doing it in mixing, because mixing, you can't just make something naturally sound huge. And if you can make it sound huge, this will push it just that much further, so it sounds even bigger when you go to mix it. So be willing to get creative, be willing to get down and to do what you need to do to get what you need. Tip number 2 is having the hard conversations. And what I mean is having the hard conversations with bands, okay? Bands, producers, all these people are artists, and it can be really harmful, or it can be really hurtful sometimes to hear sometimes that your idea sucks, or, you're not good at playing that part or whatever. And it's important that you develop the social skills so that you are able to have those hard conversations without hurting anybody's feelings. This will take your productions way further, because you can now go to a guy and say, hey, I just don't think that guitar part's working out right now. Either let's come back to it, or, could I try a pass at it, or could we try someone else doing it? Or, hey man, that vocal take's just really not working right now. Do you need some time to rest? Whatever. Have those hard conversations. If something's not working, let it know that it's not working and try and move on and get other stuff done, because if it's not working, it's not going to work. You can't force it. So have the hard conversations that you need to have so that you can reach the end goal that you guys all want to reach. Make sure you define with your artist that, hey, we're all trying to make something awesome here. And in order to make something awesome, we have to make compromises. That this isn't always something that we come into and that goes one way and that's it. We all need to make compromises. Don't be mean to people. Be nice to people. Always be nice to people. That's going to take your business way further than being mean to people. But be willing to have hard conversations and develop the skills necessary to have the hard conversations and not come off like a dick. Tip number 3, and this one is way more technical, but edit on the spot. Okay, I wish I knew this when I first started, because it would have saved me countless hours and it would have made my productions so much better. But when the band is sitting right there, when you do a take, edit on the spot. Whether you wait until you finish the entire track to edit, or you wait and do it between takes, or whatever you do, make sure you edit while the band is there. And the reason it's so important is because what I would always do is I would have, them come in and track, and then I would sit and I would have hours and hours of editing work, only to find out that, this drum take doesn't work, and there's a double hit in there, and there's not anything I can do to fix it, and all sorts of stuff. And editing while the band's there does a whole lot of things. Just make sure you define with your band that when they're coming in, that you are going to be editing in addition to tracking. Make sure you let them know that, because I've had some weird looks sometimes from bands where I sit down and I start editing and they go, hey, can we get back to tracking? And we just make sure you define that with them before it comes in. It's not a big deal, but just let them know so that they have the correct expectation coming in. Tip number 4. This is another one that is talked about all the time, and I think it is incredibly important, and that is commit. And that doesn't always mean that you oh, commit to this amp sound, and suddenly that's your amp sound. You can't change it because you committed. What I mean is commit to ideas, commit to concepts, commit to different things. Be willing to follow the path that needs to be taken to get the job done. So if you find something in a song that works, even though it's different, just commit to it. Say, that's our thing, okay? If, you have an amp, for instance, I just did a video on amp sims. If you have an amp sim and it sounds good in the track, don't even think about it. If you want to reamp and you have the time to reamp, go for it. But if you have an amp sim sound and it's like, this already sounds killer, then print the amp sim. Work with that. Don't focus so much on like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't recorded through a 6505, so therefore it must not be good. If it sounds good, it is good, and work with it, okay? So commit to what you have so that you can get the job done, and ultimately, at the end of the day, take pressure off of your shoulders. Because if you're committing, you're less focused on, oh, I didn't record through a PV6505, or I didn't, record through a triple rec, or, I didn't have this, that, or the other. You're less focused on that, and you're more focused on, okay, I have a guitar tone that works. How can I make it sound badass? And the final tip that I think is so important is focus on arrangement, okay? So many productions out there, we go, oh, they sound so great, yada, yada, yada. And a lot of that comes down to the arrangement of the tracks. If something's not working, this is where I always start in a song. And that means a few things. Number one, it means, do parts need to be changed around? Okay, you're a producer, be a producer. Talk to the bands about, hey, does something need to be changed in this song? That can also mean stuff like this. All these tracks here, these are all extra things that I added on top of the production. I have some, some pads here. I take that back, that's a synth. I have, hits. Here's a pad. What else? I have some dumpster hits from Damage. That does a lot. I mean, those little things just add a little bit more uniqueness to your sound. And what it does is it takes you away from being like, oh, okay, well, here's some guitars and here's some bass and drums and vocals. And it takes it into, okay, this is a full production. So focus on that arrangement because it's going to take you really far. And none of this stuff has to be super obvious. You can do these subtle pads like this pad here. That's going over a breakdown and you can barely hear it, but when you take it out, suddenly the whole breakdown just sounds empty. So focus on arrangement, and this ties back to what I was saying earlier. If you want something to sound a certain way, find a way to make it sound that way naturally without resorting to, oh, well, I'll just make it sound huge in the mix, or I'll make it sound intimate in the mix, or whatever. What can you do now to make it sound that way? And that's a combination of your creativity and arrangement. What can you do to make it sound that way right now? So that one is so important, and it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, but what you need to be asking yourself is not, okay, does this sound good enough? You need to be asking yourself, what can I do to make this sound even better? And always be pushing that envelope. Remember, you can always take this stuff out, but getting it added in there is a process that you have to initiate and you have to start. So I hope all these tips were helpful for you guys. These are 5 things that I just picked up from doing this over time, and I think they're all super important. At the end of the day, what it means is that you need to work hard and you need to define your goals, okay? And the rest of the tips should fall in line. Okay, so always work hard, always define your goals, always be willing to work with your artists, be creative, do all that stuff, and go out and make great records. There should be 2 videos flashing up on the screen. Make sure you hit that center subscribe button to make sure you keep up to date with us, and I'll see you next time.